Beavis. How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
So, Richard asked us to, like, host the show or something.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. I think he's, like, sick or something.
Whoa, is he okay?
Yeah. I think he, like, hurt his larynx or something.
Oh, yeah. He was, like, singing karaoke last night.
Yeah. He was singing karaoke at the Autonomy talent show.
Yeah, that ruled. He was singing Elton John, like, hoo-ah, 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 hoo-ah.
Like wow, wow. No, dumbass. He was singing John Lennon.
Oh, yeah.
John Lennon beat up his wife, and then he wrote a song about it.
Oh, yeah, that guy was pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, Beavis, did you see all that stuff about the UFOs?
Oh, yeah, they were, like, hovering over my mom's house, too.
Shut up, Beavis. The only thing hovering over your mom's house is the smell of lube and broken dreams.
Oh, shut up, butthead, that's not cool.
Did you see that guy who was arrested for shooting that CIO guy?
Oh, yeah, that guy was pretty cool, too.
Shut up, Beavis. He wasn't cool. He was just mad that he hurt his back and he couldn't score anymore.
Oh, yeah. You know, I must have hurt my back, too. I haven't been able to score either.
Hey, Beavis, maybe that's it. Maybe we just need to get our backs fixed or something.
Oh, yeah. Where do we get our backs fixed?
Let's see. I think it's called, going to the gyrocopter.
Yeah, butthead, we just need to go to the gyrocopter, and then we can score. Yeah.
Let's see here. We'll go check it out. In the meantime, let's check out Luke Radowski from We Are Change and see what he has to say about it. You know that guy knows how to score.
Yeah, that guy's pretty cool.
Well, this is probably one reason out of many why drones aren't flying here in Florida. As only the tough survive here in this beautiful free state, as a lot of people are asking the question, what are these drones? As some people are speculating that they are Iranian motherships, that they're Chi-Coms, that they're Russian, that they're aliens, that they're UFOs, or they're secret American surveillance technology that is trying to stop a dirty bomb or suitcase nuke. What in the world is going on here? Well, we're going to be doing our best to answer that, as a lot of the internet sleuths look like they have something to really consider that could be an explanation for all of this, and I think it's something major, something concerning, as clearly the information that we're getting from the government here is absolutely just filled with lies, distortion, and misinformation, as of course I think the true answer is a little bit more concerning, especially with the larger possibility here of something bigger at play here that the government is very quiet about, so they don't, of course, create panic amongst the general public. Now, in my opinion, that's a little bit too much of a nice explanation to give to the federal government that has a long track record of doing unethical experiments on unsuspecting citizens, committing false flags, orchestrating entire events in order to get general publics into war, and of course, almost every step of the way, screwing over you, the American taxpayer. So we're going to have our own kind of assessment on all of this, as already the memes have begun, as the future president of the United States just shared this particular image after he released a statement saying, hey, what's going on here, guys? The people deserve an answer, and the government's not giving us any. As he issued a statement 2 days ago saying, mystery drone sightings all over the country. Can this really be happening without our government's knowledge? I don't think so. Let the public know, and now otherwise shoot them down, GJT. As a lot of people now are thinking about the Chinese spy balloon controversy that, of course, engulfed the general public a few months ago, but this is definitely something different. There's something very strange about all of this, and luckily with Donald Trump, we at least get to laugh about this current situation, as now there's even animated AI fake videos like this. highlighting the former very unpopular governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie, getting his McDonald's deliveries through, of course, drones. As we know, a lot of private corporations like Walmart already have implemented trial programs along with Amazon that do deliver products and services to individuals through the use of drones. In Florida, an elderly man literally shot at one of these drones and was now issued to pay a $5,000 penalty. As we have to understand, what we're seeing right now has been slowly and surely escalating, and this is the important aspect that I think a lot of people need to understand here. As of course, on my social media feed within the last few weeks, and I think a lot of other people have been getting primed with a lot of videos and a lot of people coming out and saying, there's aliens, there's UFOs, here's this strange sighting, here's this strange video. Or wait, hey, look at this weird video from this particular area. The footage that you're seeing right now is, of course, from China, where the government used drones there in order to, quote, sterilize local environments and put sanitizer in the air as they were spraying toxic disinfectant in largely populated areas in order to, of course, slow the spread, which didn't work here. It was absolutely idiotic and highlighted a larger calamity of government failure that, of course, we ultimately, as the citizens of this country, had to pay for. We not only paid for the creating the damn sickness, but of course we were left dealing with it and then left dealing with the government's horrible decisions around it. But keep in mind, this video from China, it's going to be relevant to what I think is the most plausible explanation to all of this. As we have to understand here, the Pentagon literally issued a statement saying that the drones are not ours. Government officials in New Jersey saying they have no reports of anything resembling a plane in the skies, saying that a lot of these drones are untraceable, untouchable, and that they are freely operating within American airspace over military bases, strategic sites, and local law enforcement and other authority figures can't do anything about them. As we also have to remember throughout all of this, there is also a lot of disinformation and lies out there, as a lot of people are altering videos, a lot of people are posting fake videos, and dealing with this situation for many weeks on end now has been not that easy, especially as an independent journalist that usually thinks a lot of things are suspicious, and this whole entire saga has been suspicious to me from the very beginning, even before it got out there to the general public and all the local news stations that have started to talk about this. Since this is an ongoing thing that has been going on for quite a while, and even major news organizations have fallen for the trap of posting video clips of airplanes and planets and blaming them on these drones. There's also, of course, a lot of satellites also up in the sky as well. But let's be honest, there's also a huge uptick in extremely suspicious behavior that does highlight very unique, weird drone usage all over the east coast of the United States, from Washington, D.C. to New Jersey to New York. And we have to understand here, drone capabilities have been increasing and improving very dramatically within the last few years. We have seen, specifically with the larger proxy conflict in Ukraine, the use of drones is absolutely critically important to, of course, not only dominating the airspace, but the local ground troops that will now have PTSD with them for the rest of their lives with the humming of drone sounds above them. Now, again, as it's becoming more difficult to discern fact from fiction, especially with all the crap that the government spews, crap like this, by the way.
There's no question that people are seeing drones, and I want to assure the American public that we in the federal government have deployed additional resources, personnel, technology to assist the New Jersey State Police in addressing the drone sightings.
As he's shrugging all of this, saying, yeah, there's nothing unusual here at all. Don't worry, keep calm. As of course, the general public is going to be doing the exact opposite of that. As now, in the making of this video, the U.S. military has just confirmed drone sightings at an airbase in Germany. There's also other reports all around the world of suspicious drone sightings, as the latest information is now also coming from Britain, where UFO drones are now over U.S. bases there, as a lot of people, especially within the government, are, quote, baffled about what they're seeing here. Now, there's also other reports specifically detailing how some of these drones are literally landing near solar plant fields and sucking up the power, and other reports specifically from on-the-ground local news stations specifically describing how citizens are deciding to fly their drones near these very weird drones, and then very suspiciously all of their power just zaps out of their own personal drones, and they are of course forced to fly down and no longer could of course even see what's going on here. As the New Jersey Police Department even decided to fly their own drones to spot and track and find these drones, and they can't. This local news report just highlights the larger absurdity of this entire case.
Invited to join the Ocean County Sheriff Department. They launched their own drones to see if they could intercept the mysterious aircraft New Jersey residents have been reporting in recent weeks. The department says these mystery drones evade detection because they don't give off heat like regular drones. Why do you think that is?
We don't know. It's just something that we haven't, it's not something that we've had our hands on. It's not something that we've experienced.
Something they hadn't experienced until now. One of their officers called 911 after seeing 50 of them come off the ocean.
Advised after we made contact with that officer that there were 50 that came off the ocean.
50?
50. That was my reaction also. There were 50 that were coming off the ocean.
And this is a sworn officer?
A sworn officer, yes. We contacted state police, we contacted the FBI, we contacted the Coast Guard, at which point the Coast Guard went out with their boat, and they reported seeing 13 following their boat. And then the Coast Guard also advised that they went over them about 300 feet and had a wingspan of about 8 feet.
I see one right here. Did I see the same thing that officer saw?
So yeah. How do you quantify all of this? What's the larger understanding here? Well, let's extrapolate the little that we know here. As of course, a lot of people are reporting that these drones are about the size of a car. Some of them around 6 foot tall. They can't be tracked. There's no signal. There's no thermal imaging. At night, sometimes they decide to flash lights. Sometimes they don't flash lights. As consumer drones are taken down and have their energy and battery zapped when they fly near them. As of course, this highlights some really advanced high-tech stuff that, let's be honest, here our government could have, other governments could have, or other intelligent life could have too. Now, when it comes to the whole alien thing, personally, I used to be really into aliens and sort of believe in them when the government told us not to believe in them. But over the last few months and years, there has been a concerted effort of the government trying to convince us that aliens exist. And therefore, I'm a little bit more skeptical of it than I ever have been before. As again, these incidences of everything unfolding here, of everything that's happening here, is strange, but I think one of the most plausible explanations here, and one of the biggest universal truths here, is that the government is lying through their teeth, and they're making the situation that much worse. They're providing so much more panic, so much more fear, so much more speculation, as a New Jersey senator just came out and said that the feds are too fearful of public relation to tell the truth about the mysterious drones, as he hasn't told us exactly what he knows, but a lot of people are of course, connecting the dots and making sense of all of this, as it's pretty clear here that with the government obfuscating a lot of this, and with the way that our defense systems have been kind of penetrated here, and the lack of questions here, that this larger drone operation, which is a major drone operation, is too large and too well organized for it to be any kind of foreign threat or outside life force entity. I'm sorry, it's just too big. It's just too much of an anomaly to be something that the government completely has no idea about. And in my opinion, I think there are sects of the government that know exactly what's going on here. And the best theory of what I can understand has been happening here is something that me and my friends were talking about. We were kind of debating whether we should even talk about this, but now a lot of people are talking about this already. And that is that these drones are looking for some kind of threat out there that could be either a dirty bomb, a small suitcase nuclear bomb, or another low-yield nuclear bomb kind of explosive device or chemical weapons attack that there could be a larger threat of, that these drones are sniffing out and trying to look for the signal of through, of course, their advanced mapping and scanning technology. As, of course, doing this operation with individuals would be extremely time-consuming. And if we're being generous for the government here, it is plausible that they are keeping it secret so they don't cause panic amongst the local populations that they're looking for this particular weapon of mass destruction in their own location. Because if I know that there's a weapon of mass destruction in my area, I'm just going to get out of the area. As this, that seemed like one of the more kind of logical explanations to all of this. As I think there's also even a bigger, more sinister one at play here that I'm going to get into in just a little bit. But this theory originally was floated out by Jersey Futures, whose account was deleted, that specifically explained that these are the drones that are being used here. As he described that these are American-made HPGE nuclear detection drones that could, quote, detect the presence of of gamma rays miles away, as according to him, they are scanning for radiation and electromagnetic waves that penetrate and are able to be found through these drones. It looks like a Chinese company makes very similar drones like this, as another online anonymous account on Reddit says that these drones are, quote, a part of a military drill being conducted by the Space Force, and that everything is, quote, on a need-to-know basis, and that there's, quote, full additional lockout drills that are scheduled to take place between now and Christmas Eve, and that these operations involve the full turnover of all radio and radar aircraft communication in the military for several hours at a time, and that people are setting up some kind of big show for the public very soon. And again, this is just an online anonymous account, so take that with a grain of salt, to say the least. As we have other anonymous online accounts saying that these drones over New Jersey are experimental anti-hypersonic missile defense systems that are being deployed due to a credible threat of a nuclear attack on New York City. Again, anonymous sources, anonymous kind of accounts here, as we do have to understand the larger kind of geopolitical ramifications of everything that we're dealing with right now are very severe, are very big, and we have to understand the U.S. intelligentsia and the deep state and the intelligence agencies have been acting very erratic ever since Donald Trump's victory, and they have been making a lot of big moves. The move in Syria was a huge move made by them, as this drone news and information could potentially also be other things that they could be setting up in a way in order to either put in check or go after Donald Trump and his future presidency, so he doesn't carry out a lot of the orders that, of course, would put them in check. So preemptively, they are launching these kind of psyops, or even potentially the planting of these stories of these particular events to say, look, we're dealing with the tragedy here. Donald Trump, you can't fire all of us. We're dealing with a very severe situation that only we are capable of dealing with, and therefore you have to keep us in power and give us the ability to do whatever we want. As I think that's a possible potential theory here. As I've said previously beforehand, ever since Donald Trump won, even before Donald Trump won, people do not relinquish power freely and easily. There's always some kind of push and shove. And I think what we're seeing right now, if I could explain it, could be a larger potential false flag at play here, where either foreign enemies or domestic enemies plant dirty bombs, small nuclear weapons on the east coast of the United States that will be used as a pretext for larger foreign entanglements and wars that could be preemptively started by this administration that could really create a big mess for the future presidency, or they could be setting the groundwork for Donald Trump to have an absolute crap storm and a false flag attack to deal with him himself that could conveniently be blamed on the country that the Pentagon has been trying to bomb and attack for over 20 plus years. As Donald Trump's track record with Iran doesn't really highlight a lot of his more peace proposals that he's been talking about here, as even the Wall Street Journal is talking about how the Trump team is weighing options, including airstrikes, to stop Iran's nuclear program. There's also the larger conversations about Project Bluebeam and other usurping efforts on all of this. As we have to understand, the situation that we're dealing with right now, it's not a minor one. It's a major one. It's huge. That's why I decided to wear my Don't Nuke Me Bro t-shirt that you could also exclusively get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. By the way, get your orders in now. We have a lot of Christmas sweaters, so you could actually have them for Christmas dinner with all of your family members, particularly, hopefully, some liberal family members. We got some really great conversation starters and some.
Let's do this. What's up, everybody? Your boy Scott here in the captain's seat tonight, because as Beavis and Butthead kind of alluded to in the opening there, our fearless leader Rich is under the weather this evening. So there was discussions behind the scenes. We're like, do we call it? Do we do a replay? Do we play something, some sort of filler? And I don't know if you guys know about how we roll in the autonomy community or not, but like when stuff like that happens, we just step up to the plate and we just handle the situation, right? But you've probably heard this term a lot being thrown around, like the complexity. There's always complexity to media production, podcast producing, online marketing, all this stuff. There's always a layer of complexity that gets triggered right in the middle when you least expect it and you last anticipate it. And, that's the difference between those that do and those that don't. Those that make it, those that don't, is that when your complexity gets triggered like that, how do you respond? What do you do? Do you say, no, we're just going to go to replay. We're going to go to rebroadcast and we're going to sit this one out tonight? No. You step in the pilot seat. And not only that, but I was like, I'm going to throw together a damn Beavis and Butthead intro to lay on the people. And I threw that together in like half an hour. You know what I mean? Like right before the show started. So I hope you guys appreciated that. how's it going? Hey, Beavis, do you know about these drones? What the hell's going on with these drones, Beavis?
I don't know, babe. I don't know about it.
You know what I'm saying? So that's how we roll around here. And hope you guys enjoyed that. I was cracking up doing that, dude. So anyway, you guys, we're gonna roll tonight. We got a full show. We got a full show lineup for you tonight. LD and I are in the house. LD, what's going on, dude?
What's up, man? Nice job with that skit. That was a lot of fun. I'm impressed you threw that together lightning fast. Nice work.
Well, okay, so what I was gonna do is I was gonna do it live on the show with I was gonna turn my camera off like this and have my background be Beavis and Butthead. And I was working up a script and I was like, it would be so much better if I recorded it and threw it. And so it turned out really good. And I'm just so glad that it did. So yeah. It's just boom, 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 done deal. So that's how we roll in Autonomy. That's how we roll in Grand Theft World. We don't back down, especially after a week like this. You guys, what in the heck? Are you guys starting to see the dots connecting? Are you starting to see I think all these stories are connected, man. And I really think that Luke nailed it at the end when he was talking about the idea of the false flag and this whole World War III thing that's brewing. I think literally so many of these stories kind of intertwine together. And so we'll get into it tonight. We're going to unpack it. We've got all kinds of stuff to cover tonight, you guys. Of course, I'm sure many of you are sick of it already, but we're going to get into the drone situation. We're going to get into the Luigi Mangione situation. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump. We're going to talk about Biden. We're going to talk about ChatGPT. Some crazy stuff going on with ChatGPT. We're going to get into, there's some January 6th news. Of course, Israel, Syria, World War III, some Diddy news, all kinds of stuff. So everything you guys came here to listen to, we're going to be unpacking until the wee hours of the morning, just like you're used to. We ain't going to sell you short. Because I know as a listener of Grand Theft World, back before I was involved with the show, this show carried me through my work week. I needed a 7-hour show to carry me through my work week, right? That was my routine, is listening to an hour a day, throughout the week. That was my routine, right? So we're going to give you guys a full show tonight. We're going to kick things off here with we're going to clear the news desk, just some random, items that were just kind of laying around on the news desk here. And this first chunk, there we go. Yeah, this first chunk is 3 different stories related to Google and YouTube just dropping the ball, sucking as they always do. If they weren't just making us cringe and just smack our foreheads, then they wouldn't be doing anything right. But there's some implications here. So we got apparently there's a new woke ad out by Google. I haven't actually seen this, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. We have YouTube was blasted for an insanely greedy new change. Oh, yeah, I did see that. Massive price increase. Good job, Google, right before the holidays. That's brought to you by the Quartering. And then a BBC News expose of the Willow. Have you guys heard about Willow? Dude, crypto bros be running scared with Willow. It's freaky, dude. But anyway, yeah, so let's see what Google's been up to this last week, and then we'll come back and recap. So, bam.
Afghanistan disaster, we didn't have inflation. We had no inflation, and we had a very strong economy. And we're going to do that again, but I think we're going to even up it because now we have experience that we didn't have.
President-elect Trump rang the bell at the New York Stock Exchange this morning, his first time ever doing that. He has been named one other time to Time Magazine's Person of the Year. So that's this year, too. And of course, now half the day is gone. So 39 and a half days until Trump is back in the Oval Office, and new polling shows people are feeling optimistic. A Fox survey finds 54% of voters say they are hopeful post-election. Another national poll shows 55% of Americans approve of the way that Trump is handling the presidential transition. A new op-ed sums it up this way. National mood shift since Trump's win is reviving America's lost vigor. Trump's incoming press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, with this.
There's a real palpable spirit out there. People feel more optimistic because they know we're going to have a real leader again who's going to make this country safe and strong and wealthy.
A recent New York Times piece focused on 14 people who voted for Trump despite having some misgivings in the lead up to the election. Here's a quote. The idea of America moving on from politics and actually being more united than it seems to be was a core idea for many in the group. They said they were tired of being criticized for holding conservative or contrary opinions and thought a lot of other Americans were too. Alexa Henning, former Trump advisor and former communications director for Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Morgan Harper, former Ohio Democratic Senate candidate. Great to have you first, or both.
Thank you.
Morgan, I'm going to come to you first. Welcome to the program. What do you make of this optimism? I mean, yours was the party of joy, and now people have it.
Well, I think it's pretty normal after a presidential election that went a positive way for a certain candidate for people to be enthusiastic towards that candidate. I think what remains to be seen is just how much the president-elect intends to follow through on some of the promises he made on the campaign trail around issues that people care a lot about. And as we know, the economy was front and center. And even in this Time magazine piece that came out today, we see him previewing a little bit that he might not be able to address things like high prices, the cost of living. And if that's so, he might find a situation where governing is a lot different than being a candidate.
Alexa, do you have a rebuttal to that?
I think that it's not just the folks that voted for President Trump, it's the entire country, and it's also the world. And everyone seems to have, taken a deep breath and a sigh of relief. And, whether Joe Biden is going to remember his legacy or not, the American people are. And it was all doom and gloom, and no one had faith that these leaders were going to fix anything. In fact, they broke everything. And President Trump is already fixing things. I mean, Tom Homan is already meeting with Greg Abbott. He's meeting with folks around the country to try to stop the flow of illegal immigrants into this country. You see deals coming to fruition with Canada and Mexico. The president was already at Notre Dame and that reopening. I mean, he is already retaking the world stage because Biden and Kamala have just disappeared more so than they were during their presidency.
I'll move to this. Google is the latest company to spark backlash over a super woke ad. It's a Christmas shopping push, which features a non-binary beauty influencer searching for skincare products using Google.
So dry. This winter dryness is not it, especially when I have so many holiday looks to pull off. Thankfully, I know just the thing. And it's in stock nearby. Hydrated skin is a gift to everyone. No wrapping needed. Happy holidays to me.
Well, biologically, he does shave, so that exfoliation should help as well. That's just science. Social media reaction here, just what you might think. One red state writer with Google, what should we do for our Christmas ad? Normals. Maybe a family sharing gifts around a tree? Google. Sorry, best we can do is a dude prancing around in women's clothing. Now, all of that was opinion that we gathered. Another user writes, another out-of-touch company failing to read the room. One more. Why would you purposefully Bud Light yourself? We've seen the same thing from Jaguar recently. The company's recent rebrand included a different kind of ad with dancers, but not a single car was in it, so I don't know if they'll be selling many Jaguars. And of course, the notorious Bud Light botched campaign, that company faced tanking sales and a boycott after its disastrous partnership with a transgender influencer. Google with a statement on its new ad. Here it is. To put it into perspective, this was a single sponsored Instagram post representing a fraction of a % of a much wider Google shopping campaign.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and YouTube just made just about everybody mad, every one of their paying customers anyway, with an insane price hike that mirrors basically what we're seeing across the entire streaming space, which begs the bigger question, are services like Hulu, Netflix, anybody who's offering you live TV, are they even sustainable? Remember when they were sold to us as, oh my God, you can get Hulu for like $25 a month, and like you're paying $150 a month for cable. Remember that? When's the last time you looked at your cable bill? How many times in the last year has Disney Plus gone up? Hulu gone up? YouTube TV gone up? Netflix gone up? Every single one of them. And YouTube tries to do some damage control in this video, and They got absolutely wrecked by Community Notes. I just want to remind everybody, just so you know, like how nice and coffee.com. All right. YouTube hikes prices $10 to $82.99. The Google-owned service said the latest price increase will hit customers starting in January. YouTube TV is increasing its price yet again, with live TV streaming service moving from $72 a month to $82. Tell me again why this is better than cable. You know, again, like, I'm just saying, you know, yes, it is better than cable, but the big reason a lot of us switched to it was because it was cheaper. Now, people just get their news and entertainment from content creators. You know, particularly, maybe you follow me on Rumble. Download the Rumble app. We don't take these decisions lightly, they said. We realize this will be an impact on our members. Imagine increasing prices at Christmas, 2 weeks before Christmas. We are committed to bringing you features that are changing the way we watch, like unlimited DVR storage and multi-view, and supporting YouTube's breadth of content and vast on-demand library of movies and shows. By the way, you get none of that for the extra $10. The YouTube service last raised its price again just back in March, when it was 12% increase. YouTube TV, once it moves to $82.99, will cost 137% more than it did when it debuted in 2017 with a monthly price of $34.99. This is exactly what cable companies would do. Remember that? Oh, you sign up for Charter Internet for $29.99. Then it's like goes up $1 here, $1 there, $8 here. Then a couple free trials on. Now it's $50, then it's $60, then it's $70, then it's $100. And then what do? You cancel that, you go to Dish Network or you go to satellite TV. Same thing happens there. Then you cancel that, you go back to cable. Same thing happens there as you go back. I mean, I worked for, Dish Network, the largest Dish Network retailer in the United States. And it was like constantly people just bouncing back and forth. In February, YouTube TV said it had 8 million monthly subscribers. Alphabet does not break out YouTube TV's performance in quarterly reports, instead opting to lump it in with YouTube's overall performance. In Q3, Alphabet reported $8.9 billion in YouTube sales and its second best quarterly revenues ever. Yet they still needed $10 more per month. And then look at this. YouTube is increasing its price to $83 a month starting in January. This means YouTube TV has now doubled in the price over the last 5 years from $40 to $83, while also removing regional sports and other channels like MLB Network. That's crazy. Like YouTube TV is criminal. The least they could do is allow custom quad box of any 4 channels you want. Remember the good old days when the purpose of YouTube TV was just to watch sports for cheaper than cable? Yeah. When football season is over, I'll cancel YouTube again for 9 months. YouTube TV sucks so bad, can't even get NFL Red Zone. DirecTV is better. I mean, they all have their issues. But this is a wild, if I go to trending, YouTube TV was like #1 early this morning. People are pissed. And you look at Hulu, I wonder why they're trending. I bet you they have a price increase getting announced today too. Here's that Mr. Medicare's friend. So I understand people will pay $85 a month for YouTube TV, $50 for Hulu, $20 for Netflix, whatever Prime costs, plus add all that add-on packages. But cable is too expensive. Cable TV should offer a low flat rate and straight up screw streaming at this point. I agree with them.
Now, the latest development from Google that it describes as a state-of-the-art quantum computer chip. The company claims Willow leapfrogs over the supercomputers that we used to consider the world's fastest, and it takes 5 minutes for them to solve a problem that would currently take supercomputers 10 septillion years to complete. Well, Professor Alan Woodward is a computer scientist at Surrey University. Septillion, before I ask you how much is that, I know it's a lot. But first of all, I'm going to start with the very basic question. If you can explain what a quantum computer chip is.
Right, that's the $1 million question. In conventional computers, the laptop I've got in front of me, the unit of information that's used for processing is called a bit. Most people have heard of a bit, and it has 2 possible values, 0 and 1. And typically the way they're implemented on a chip is with a transistor, which is a fancy switch. So the switch is either on or off. So it's either 0 or 1. In quantum computing, you use what's called a quantum bit. And the quantum bit can also be 0 or 1, But if you can get it, if you can coax it into this very special state, it's a complex combination of 0 and 1. Some people argue that it's all possible values at the same time between 0 and 1. And if you get lots of those working together, then you can actually, it turns out there's some algorithms you can do which are much faster in that sort of state with a qubit than you could ever do on a conventional computer. I'm slightly hesitant to say that this is the comparison with the supercomputer is actually really a valid one, because the algorithm they implemented is really all about it relies on quantum physics. And so the first thing the supercomputer would have to do is simulate the quantum computer or the quantum circuit. So I'm not sure it's a fair comparison in some ways. But the more interesting part about what they've done, and what Google have done in this paper they've put out, is what's called error correction, which is a very boring subject. Most people will never have heard of it, but we're all relying on it. I'm using it right now. All our modern electronics have errors in them all the time. And if you're not to end up with just lots of noise, but actually a signal you can use, you have to do what's called error correction. And what they've worked out is how to build a chip with over 100 qubits on it, such that they've reduced the error rate below a magical threshold that everybody's been trying to get to for a long, long time. And that's the big breakthrough, if you like. So I hesitate to say it's a breakthrough. I think it's probably more of a major milestone, and it's certainly very encouraging for anybody that's working on quantum computers, because it means that what we can do is we now know we can scale these things up. We can add more and more qubits to the chips without necessarily just incurring a consequentially larger number of errors. And that was really what tipped modern computing over into sort of the race we saw in the last 60 years, where every 18 months the power doubled. And that's what this holds out as a potential.
Okay, well, I'm still grappling with the idea of it being 0 and 1 at the same time. But moving on, what are the practical benefits of this, potentially?
Well, actually, it goes back to why quantum computers were first mooted by Richard Feynman back in the 80s, which is physicists were trying to use classical computers to model things in a quantum state. So when you go down to the microscopic level, quantum effects mean that you can no longer really predict and model things in the same way that you can in the world that we experience every day. And so they decided, well, why don't we actually make a computer out of something that's quantum and actually has the quantum effects built in? And that's actually what it turns out it's best at, is modeling materials right down at that microscopic level. So if you can imagine something like a drug company that's trying to model various molecules and how they interact, the quantum computers hold out the hope that they can do that much faster than they can with a conventional computer, and they can run through all sorts of combinations that would take them potentially years on a conventional computer and do it hopefully in minutes on a quantum computer.
So potential health uses there. What about the risks?
The risk is one of the reasons people became very interested in quantum computing, including myself, I have to say, was that back in 1996, it turned out that one algorithm that could be run was developed by a complete genius called Peter Shaw. And what it does is most modern encryption, it relies on certain mathematics that are very difficult to do one way, but very complicated to undo and find out the answer. So, for example, if I ask you what's 3 times 5, I'm sure you'll quickly say 15. But if I were to ask you what 2 prime numbers, when multiplied together, make 15, it takes slightly longer to work that out. Quantum computers and Shaw's algorithm mean that it's equally fast both ways. So you end up undoing or making a lot of modern, what's called public key encryption, basically useless. It can be undone very quickly. But it's not to panic, because we recognized this quite a few years ago. And indeed now people are being encouraged to move on to what's called post-quantum crypto systems, and to show that quantum computers are not just conventional computers sped up, but they're very good at certain algorithms. What we've come up with now is crypto schemes that don't have this. A quantum computer will take just as long to crack it as a conventional computer, if not longer. So there's kind of risks, but there's a solution there.
That is good to know. It's absolutely fascinating. Wish we had longer, but Professor Alan Woodward, thank you so much for explaining that so clearly. Great to talk to you. This is BBC News.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. So, I'm very curious how this is going to play out for the whole crypto scene. Bitcoin supposedly unhackable, completely, like all of the hashes are pretty much like, that's the whole point of Bitcoin, is that it's completely uncompromisable. But surely they had to have anticipated that there'd be some technology that would be like advanced enough to crack these codes or whatever, or however you call it. I'm not like the biggest Bitcoin guy, but my understanding is that these are like unhackable blockchain type deals. So I was looking it up. So they say it takes they can do this new Willow processor can calculate in 5 minutes what would take a normal processor 10 septillion years. So what the hell is a septillion, right? So I'm over here looking it up. Apparently 1 septillion is a trillion trillions. Okay. So it's saying here that since the beginning of time, allegedly, like this week, the Big Bang, they're saying, was, 13.8 billion years ago, which that number changes all the time, right? Freaking NASA and all these guys, like, whatever. Maybe we'll save that for another show. Come watch Rebunked. We get into this topic a little bit more on the Rebunked podcast, but 13.8 billion years ago, right? So that's when the Big Bang allegedly occurred. And let's see, there's 31,536 seconds in a year. So that means that, let's see, where was it? 436 trillion seconds. Okay, so there's been 436 trillion seconds since the beginning of time, since the Big Bang, allegedly, very much allegedly. But so that's 436 trillion seconds. 436, not even 1,000 trillion yet. And 1 septillion is a trillion trillions. So, and then they're saying 10 of those. So what we're talking about with this quantum computer, like, okay, so are they smoking crack? Like, what are they smoking to even insinuate that they can do calculations? This is all hocus pocus, man. Like, I'm thinking like they're just trying to like declare that they have supreme power over all of us. Like, I'm not buying this 10 septillion thing for a split second. Like, it might be like 10 times faster than like the new like Apple M4 maybe or something like that. But what do you think, LD? Like, what is this? What is this? Like, is this like
those are incomprehensible
sorcery?
numbers?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I could see it, as, a vector of psychological warfare, like you're saying, purporting to have this godlike control. I mean, isn't that what a lot of science has been, at least the perception of that is pushed in popular culture and mainstream media. But then, you find out a lot about the most brilliant scientific minds. Maybe they went through an atheistic phase, and they're, especially in the world of physics, were brought back to deep faith in God through their scientific explorations. So,
Absolutely, man. It's amazing how that works. Like you go down the rabbit hole of scientific discovery, but you're always going to run into the end of the line where you no longer have an explanation to what you're seeing. And it can only be some sort of divine creation at that point. You have to acknowledge at least there's something larger and more magnificent going on than we can explain or comprehend, right?
Yeah.
Maybe science will someday explain it, but I don't know. And I think that's one of their pursuits that they are going to chase into the gates of insanity, is the idea that they are the ones that can create life or life forms, right? I think that sparks in each one of us is something that is beyond technology. It's not something that we can create. And they're going to drive themselves crazy trying to pursue that, and they're going to create things that resemble life to such a profoundly, convincing degree, like the ultimate Turing test. But I don't think it's going to be real life. They're going to tell us it's real, but I won't believe it. Believe it. So we're witnessing some pretty interesting stuff. Like, it feels like every week, the AI videos get a little more convincing. What they're claiming they can do gets a little more powerful. And then, of course, keep in mind, folks, that all the stuff that they're revealing to us, what they're putting out there as current technology, is stuff that they've been working on behind the scenes for decades, right? So the technology gets revealed and dished out to us has been in the works or has been available to them for a long time. So I'm convinced that they're running these like supercomputer algorithms. And I feel like, for me, around 2018, maybe 2019, around that time, they like everything is running off a script that's been AI generated. Like they have these super powerful, like predictive things like, okay, well, in order to achieve this, you need to execute this and this and this. And that's why things all of a sudden stopped making sense, because it's just running a script given to them by this AI overlord. Like, I don't know. That's a theory that I maybe have. But like,
yeah. I'll jump off of that and just, the idea of like collective consciousness and egregores, generally speaking, I mean, with the, in that time period that you're describing, social media has grown immensely. This past election cycle, definitely like the social media election, right? I mean, we're witnessing the kind of the death throes of the legacy media paradigm. So there's something to be said about stories seeding the collective consciousness, or certain things in becoming reality out of just the fact that people are discussing them online. I don't know if that sounds like gibberish or if that's making sense, but in discussions of I've been listening to a lot of interesting discussions about physics and consciousness, and these are just some of the concepts that I've hung on to from those discussions. And to back up what I was saying about scientific minds and God, there's a very very interesting guy I've been listening to through Pete Quinones and friends of his, Jason Miranchuk, and there's a series on physics and consciousness with this guy's named Stormy Waters. That's his anon name on X. He's a venture capitalist, but has a deep interest in physics, and someone who had a bunch of disposable income at a young age went out and bought a couple of Einstein's diaries, and using an early version of Google Translate, scanning pages in German, and was astounded to discover that Einstein was kind of obsessed with God. Now, where do we hear that in textbooks in our education system? In fact, in recent years, there's lots of like bringing Einstein down, like as a fraud and a cousin fucker or niece fucker or whatever. So I don't know.
E equals MC squared equals Einstein married cousins twice, right?
Well, I don't know.
Equals married cousins twice.
Same with Tesla. I'd say, I'm sure there's fascinating information in Tesla's documents, and to my understanding, whatever was recovered from his personal effects in New York City, there's a whole lot more behind lock and key in a building in Croatia that's closely guarded.
Totally. And you know what? Everyone's clamoring for them to release the Epstein flight logs, and Trump saying like, hey, we're going to release the Epstein flight logs. Hey, Trump, why don't you call your uncle and release the Tesla documents, bro? Come on. That's what we should be clamoring for. We want that Tesla shit, dude.
Time travel back to Uncle John, and let's have it.
Exactly. And I was going to say, it's really funny what happens when you go back and translate things from German into English. Some of those old things that, get translated into English. It's really funny what happens, right?
It is funny.
It's very funny. So, all right. Yeah. I mean, so we'll see, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of I love tech. I love new tech, you know what I mean? And technology in and of itself is inert, but it's being steered by people that hate humanity, that obviously have a degree of power and influence that we can't even comprehend. You know what I mean? And so it's like if the playing field was even and we had like more freedom aligned people that were developing technology, maybe that we could trust. I mean, obviously Elon's a very controversial figure. He's at the tip of the spear of developing a lot of new innovative technologies. But imagine if we had like our own chat GPT that you could like, that had none of these woke guardrails on it, and we could ask it things and we could do things. And I know Grok is kind of fun. You can do some fun things. I've made some fun images on there. You can do things on there that you can't do on other AI platforms. But at the same time, there's still those guardrails there. And it's like, if we had freedom aligned AI initiatives, then who knows what could happen. So who knows? We'll see. I mean, I'm excited for what's coming to a certain degree, but I'm also very cautious and fearful. And I've spent a lot of time reading books and looking into AI philosophy and just seeing where this is headed. And it's really, really interesting. And obviously, in pop culture, we've seen all the movies, the Terminators and the Matrixes, and we know what the implications could be. But, you know, there is the chance for it to unlock a lot of human potential. But I don't know. I don't know, man. It's interesting. I think it's so fascinating and interesting, and I'm fascinated by it. And I was talking to a friend earlier today. Like, I'm really excited that I didn't take a lot of the career paths and life choices that I initially wanted back in the day. Like some of my early ones was I wanted to be an animator in the movie industry. I wanted to go be one of the guys that does all the CGI special effects in the film industry. All those jobs are going away. And then I also kind of wanted to be like a computer hacker type, like systems analyst, like computer guy. Probably all those jobs are going to be replaced. And like people's jobs in those capacities are going to be and I've even heard people say this, like people are going to go to school to learn how to give prompts to AI. Like your job is going to be learning how to prompt the AI. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of going meta, right? Like those jobs where you're maybe more in the code or manually doing that animation stuff, you're moving up to using tools that are automating that, and so it could allow for a lot of faster development and achieving greater things. But obviously, if you're not if you get lazy, like using AI, and there's errors in the code at some level, and you're not thoroughly checking it all, then we have big problems.
Exactly, man. And those are the things that they talk about. The containment problem and the alignment problem are the two big ones that they talk about in AI philosophy. Of right, the containment being, if we program the AI to go do something, it has to have certain limitations, and it doesn't go outside of the scope of what we try to train it to do. Like when we're talking like AGI, artificial general intelligence, if we're training it, the classic example they use is the paperclip thing. Have we talked about this on the show? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Paperclip problem. So this is the one they talk about with the containment problem, which is where, let's say you program an AI, a recursive AI, AGI, that can go and then train the next generation of itself, which will then train the next generation of itself, and blah, blah, blah. Recursive being it can continually improve upon itself onto infinity. So that's what they're saying is like what they call the technological singularity, the point at which the AI can train itself, and it will just go whoof. It'll just be like a hockey stick improvement of technology. It'll unlock all the secrets of the universe within a matter of hours or days, right? Once it's able to come online and train itself in such a way. And so if we train it and tell it, like, let's say we have one of these recursive AI systems, and we say, okay, go out there and figure out the best way to make paper clips, the most efficient, maximum production method for producing paper clips. And so it goes, okay, and it doesn't know any better, and it learns how to rearrange atoms and electrons down to like to figure out how to turn any sort of organic matter or frequency or vibration into paper clips. So it goes out there and starts making paper clips, and then before you know it, it's created this whole system, and these systems are making systems, and they're going around and transforming every single atom in the universe into paper clips, and next thing you know, everything in the whole universe becomes paper clips, because that's what you told it to do, and it didn't know to stop. So the containment problem is like, if you just let it go do its thing, you got to make sure that you put the rails on it, because it's just going to go turn the whole universe into paper clips, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm hedging my bets and continuing to learn how to build buildings and
totally
produce milk with
100%. 100%. And then the alignment problem, just real quick, and we'll go on to the next set of clips, is the alignment problem is if the AI's goals are in alignment with human goals. So, it's like the genie in the bottle trick, where it's like, I wish for world peace. And it will go, okay, I know how to do world peace. We'll just get rid of all the humans, and then there'll be peace on Earth, right? So giving it goals specific enough that are in alignment with human goals. So it may see the end result, and it may see that end result includes, well, I guess we just have to get rid of China. And so it just goes and gets rid of China. Like, so we have to like keep it, aligned with human values. So containment and alignment, those are the big things. And so it's like, wherever this is going, man, it's super interesting. And I'm just grateful too that it's really put the power in our hands, within the next year or two, really, maybe like 3 years from now, like we'll be able to make like you and me, I'll just be able to sit at my computer at home. Like I could already make music, release albums. I can make, very short clips in a short amount of time. Like we'll be able to make like Hollywood level, Marvel, Transformer level CGI movies just sitting at home, dude. Like, and so that's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that. Like the power is going to be in our hands.
Yeah.
I have so many projects that I want to do. And so that'll be so cool, man. So there you go. So anyway, well, let's keep the show going here, guys. We got another just few clips here to wrap up the kind of intro here. A few just random news items, and then we'll get into the heavy duty stuff. So this is we got some Pfizer vax data. My buddies over at Pfizer, my homies over at Pfizer, are being forced to release their vax data, which is awesome. We're gonna check in with Alex Jones, see what his fight for free speech, what's going on with that. And then we got some 9/11 stuff. People who helped out are being diagnosed with cancer. Imagine that. Again, another round of people that were there on 9/11 being diagnosed with cancer. Imagine that. So, all right, let's kick it off and we'll be right back.
Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and only jimmydore.com. So the big news is that a judge said that the FDA has to release the records on the COVID-19 vaccine. Remember it said they wanted to wait 75 years? You remember that? I have a joke about it in my act.
Yeah. Well, because we're going to live so much longer from that safe, effective vaccine, then it'll be a treat.
It'll be great. They're going to hold on to them for 75 years. Then when I'm 120, I'll get to see it, and I'll throw a big party. I'll invite Dick Van Dyke. So that's happening. The FDA must disclose more COVID-19 vaccine records. A judge ruled. That was on December 6th. Here's Pierre Corey, guy who's taking care of me for my vaccine injury. He has something to say about it.
The FDA, when they launched these, Pfizer, when they launched these mRNA vaccines, they asked the FDA for 75 years. The FDA asked a judge for 75 years to release all the data, all the regulatory data that they received. And that right on its face is absurd. However, the court ruled against them and said, you must release all of them, gave them a year. It was something like 1.2 million pages. And there's articles saying today that FDA went back to court telling the judge that they're all done, that they released all the papers, but they haven't. There's tons of manufacturing documents that are missing. So they're again hiding data. And we know that the major problem with the vaccines is that they were toxic largely due to horrific manufacturing processes and failures at quality assurance and good manufacturing practice. And so there are so many glaring failures in that manufacturing process, and they're trying to hide the data on that.
So I don't understand why the judge is bullying these drug companies. Jimmy Kimmel's going to cry.
He's going to take this one really hard.
And I'm sure it was the manufacturing process that's doing all the harm, and it's certainly not the contents of the experimental procedure with no long-term studies. It's like, isn't it like,
I have to hope that it was not working when I got it. That's my only hope is manufacturing sucked and I got a dead version.
Is that like saying, here's your shit souffle, sorry about the gluten?
Hey, there's a hair in my shit sandwich.
But, the vaccines are safe and effective. That's what the FDA and the CDC say. So I have to tell you that, too, because that's what they say. And we can't contradict them. I'm not. I'm just saying that the judge is saying they've got to release them. And a federal judge has ordered the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. The FDA is like the CIA for food and drugs, right? That's like
promising.
To publicly disclose more information underpinning its authorization of COVID-19 vaccines after failing to persuade the court to end the public records lawsuit. In a ruling, opens new tab on Friday's U.S. District Court ordered the agency to produce its emergency use authorization file to a group of scientists who want to see licensing information that the FDA relied on to approve the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus. Yeah, they want to release it to scientists? What scientists? Joe Rogan? So everybody just stop worrying about what's in the vaccines. It's not like it's something you inject inside your body and it goes to every organ. I mean, I don't follow the science, but I do follow the word science.
Yeah, me too.
And that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So the COVID-19 pandemic is long past, and so has any legitimate reason for concealing from the American people the information relied upon by the government in approving the Pfizer vaccine, wrote Pittman. That's what the judge said. And that he was
appointed by Trump.
He was appointed by Trump, but Trump wants credit for the vaccine.
Yeah, Reuters is trying to smear this.
The lawsuit filed in late 2021 attracted attention after the FDA said it would take decades to process and disclose records to the public health and medical professionals for transparency, the group that brought the case. So attorney Aaron Siri, whose wife works inside my iPhone. I don't know if you know that. Aaron Siri, representing the public health and medical professionals for transparency, welcomed the judge's order. The FDA clearly lacks confidence in the review that it conducted to license Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine because it is doing everything possible to prevent independent scientists from conducting an independent review, Suri said. He said the agency was hiding from the court and the plaintiff 1 million pages of clinical trial documents from the COVID-19 vaccine clinical trials. The FDA has power to grant emergency use authorization and some other medical products for vaccines and some other medical products. The lawsuit said the medical and scientific community and the public have a substantial interest in reviewing the data and information underlying the FDA's approval of the Pfizer vaccine. The agency has countered that its emergency use authorization file did not fall within the scientist group's record request. So they're still fighting it.
This is very Pentagon, isn't it? Almost as if it were a bioweapon. It's almost like a secret bioweapon because this is the same dance you get if you're trying to look into anything that in the security state.
Shouldn't that make everybody upset that they're trying to hide the data on the vaccines? Why would you want to hide the data?
Because I don't want the wrong people finding it.
The FDA said in a filing that it has produced more than 1 million pages of records in the lawsuit. The filing also said that it had set up unprecedented and extraordinary operations, spending more than $3.5 million to comply with Pittman's directives to speed up.
How much?
3.5.
So they got change out of the couch for this.
Yes. That's you could
unprecedented and extraordinary. It shouldn't be. This should be standard procedure that we get to see what in the hell you did.
I can't believe this kind of. This is kind of.
Oh, it's par for the course to me because.
So here's the guy. He said, here's the lawyer. In our case against the FDA, the court just ordered the FDA to produce an additional 1 million pages of Pfizer COVID-19 trial documents that the FDA tried to hide from the public.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great day for independent media. Alex Jones wins. A judge has blocked the Onion's purchase of InfoWars, basically saying, you broke the rules, you can't do this. So for those that don't know the story, Alex Jones's InfoWars was to be put up for auction, only it wasn't really an auction. It seems like, according to news reports, that the family of the Sandy Hook victims had a deal made with the Onion where the Onion, and this is the weirdest thing. Okay, let me slow down. Here's how it's supposed to work. Alex Jones gets sued, loses, whatever. It's an old story. It's complicated. Fine. He's got to pay a massive debt of $1.4 billion, some ridiculous amount. So they're going to liquidate his assets. They say, we'll do an auction. Here's how bankruptcy auctions are supposed to work. Everybody gets to bid. One guy says, I'll give him 5, I'll give him 10, I'll give him 20, I'll give him 30. Whoever has the highest amount wins. Only at the last minute it was reported that at the last minute, the individual that was running this auction decided, you know what, we're going to do single bids only. Submit how much you're willing to pay for this in private, and then we're going to decide who we think should win. And apparently there was one company associated with Alex Jones that offered, like $3.5 million or whatever. But they say, but the Onion offered for something. As it turns out, the reason why it's being blocked is because the Onion said, we'll give you all of this money and we'll pay you the money from what we're buying. And it's like, wait, hold on. You're saying we're going to give $4 million for InfoWars, and that $4 million is going to come from the sale of the things we are acquiring at InfoWars. That is to say, I'll give you nothing, I'll take it for free, sell everything, and then give you the money. That's not how auctions work. And I know I'm not nailing it perfectly, but that's the general idea. So Alex Jones comes out and says they're not going to allow this to happen. The Onion is making this joke. They're gloating, saying, haha, we got InfoWars. But didn't happen. Not that I think it really matters, okay? Guys, I love the media inside baseball stuff because I run a media company. That's right. Chief Executive Officer Tim Pool can tell you all about how the media works. You cannot stop Alex Jones. It is impossible. Now, you can annoy him and you can lower his standard of living, but this dude's going to be rich for the rest of his life. Nothing will ever change that. He already launched the Alex Jones Network. There's nothing you can do about it. And so this is really just PR nonsense. But fine, if we win the PR battle, we win the PR battle. There is other news, too. I mean, everyone's talking about Brett Cooper, or the Daily Wire, quitting. And I'll say that for another segment, but I really, really do enjoy talking the inside media baseball. So there's a lot to talk about as it pertains to Alex Jones, first and foremost. We do have a lot of other news today to get to. CNN reports the bankruptcy judge has blocked the Onion's winning bid for Alex Jones' InfoWars conspiracy platform, citing concern with the auction process, which he says left money on the table. Oh, interesting. See, the judge is correct. If you do an auction where you're like, everybody gets one bid in private, then you're not going to get the maximum value. I got to be honest. When I heard that the winning bid was like $3 million or $1.75 million, it was $1.75. Are you kidding me? I'm going to buy InfoWars. Look, a guy who owns a local auto dealership could afford to buy InfoWars if this is the number they're putting it at. No disrespect to Alex Jones. So let's read more. Quote, I'm going to not approve the sale to the purchaser. I think there's a great lack of clarity here, Judge Christopher Lopez, a bankruptcy judge for the Southern District of Texas, said during a ruling on Tuesday. Lopez said the process, while well-intended, simply did not maximize value in any way based upon the record before me. Last month, the court-appointed trustee said the satirical news site won the auction to acquire InfoWars parent company Free Speech Systems, which was sold off as part of a defamation settlement after Jones falsely called the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre a hoax. I would also add many, many, many other people did do that too. It was wrong to have done it, but it's pretty wild that they're just nuking Alex Jones over it. We get it. It's political. The Onion's bid was backed by the families of 8 victims of the school shooting and 1 first responder. According to court documents, the Onion, via its parent company Global Tetrahedron, offered $1.75 million in cash, along with a credit from the Connecticut families, who offered to forego 100% of their portion of the winning bid to support the effort, valuing the bid at $7 million. You see, they basically said, this is so weird. That's why it got shut down. We're going to give $1.75 million for this company. We're not going to bid any further, and we're going to use the debt the company has to them as cash. That makes no sense. 100% to forego 100% of the portion of the winning bid. How does that get you to $7 million? Hold on. If you offer $1.75 million, and they're going to forego 100%, the best case you have is to double that. To say it's going to be 3.5, that makes no sense. The one other competing bid at 3.5 in cash came from First American United Companies, which is affiliated with Jones and operates his lucrative online nutritional supplement store. But Lopez said he took issue with the auction process. The court-appointed trustee in the case, who had wide discretion to handle the auction and chose the winner based on his own judgment, had initially said there would be a live auction in which anybody could offer more money. But that process was then changed to sealed best and final bids. After the Onion was declared the winner, Jones and First United American Companies sued to stop what they called a Frankenstein bid because of the credit pledge by the families and other complaints about the auction process. A 2-day hearing took place with witnesses called to discuss the auction process and the bids involved. The testimony stretched late into the evening on Tuesday when Lopez ruled at nearly 10:30 p.m. Central Time. While Lopez said he had no problem with the makeup of the Onion's bid and that everyone acted in good faith, he believed the trustee left a lot of money on the table, or potential for a lot of money on the table, potential for a lot of negotiation on the table because of the auction process and because other bidders did not know about the competing bids. Lopez said the trustee should scratch and claw for every last dollar. Yes, make it a live auction. Then the Onion's going to say 1.75 plus the family's offer debt. And then someone's going to go, I offer 2? Okay, what? How are the families offering their personal debt in separate stakes? It makes literally no sense. Jones was previously ordered to pay nearly $1.5 billion to the families of Sandy Hook. And the funny thing is, they actually requested the GDP of France. I am not joking. They wanted the GDP of France from Alex Jones. Again, not a joke. Not like literally taking it from France. They wanted the equivalent of the gross domestic product of the entire nation of France. 1.5 billion may as well be. This reminds me of Austin Powers when he's like, he goes he goes back in time in part 2 and he's like $100 billion.
Health officials are now warning of more harmful effects stemming from the September 11th terror attacks and working at ground zero, including skyrocketing breast cancer rates in men. The CDC reports that 91 men in the World Trade Center health program have been diagnosed with the disease to date. That is a rate, by the way, 90 times higher than the national average, where roughly 1 out of 100,000 are diagnosed with breast cancer. Let's go now to medical oncologist Dr. Thomas Marin. Doctor, thank you so much for hopping on with me this morning. I mean, these numbers are staggering. Is there any doubt in your mind that 9/11 is the cause here?
Oh, no, not at all. We've been seeing increasing numbers of many types of cancer in these patients that were working there and the first responders as well. We're seeing increasing rates of all types of cancer, prostate cancer, thyroid cancer, and blood cancers. But it's particularly alarming when you see this rate 90 times what we would expect in men. And it's also oftentimes a very devastating diagnosis because many men don't realize that they can get breast cancer. And so, unfortunately, we're typically finding these cases at a much more advanced state than we find in women, where, most women are undergoing annual mammography. And so oftentimes we catch the cancer very early on when it's much more curable.
Yeah, I know you shared with my team, men are 100 times less likely to get cancer, but more likely to die from it. I mean, you think back to that day and the days and weeks following, there was every carcinogen known to mankind at that site. How much or how little of it do you need to be exposed to before it becomes a problem that you should monitor?
So it's tough to know, and it was really tough to quantify exactly how much was in the air, from one day to the next, and how much exposure you really needed. There were many people that lived down there that were being exposed to much lower amounts, but for longer periods of time. But then also the folks that were involved intimately in the cleanup were obviously much more intensely exposed. And even after the smoke had cleared and we weren't seeing, powder floating in the air, these guys were being exposed for months after that. And we know from air quality control that, there were toxic levels of many chemicals in the air for months after the towers came down. And so it was really that sort of continuous exposure that most likely is the cause of these cancers.
Yeah, and you and I obviously talking about cancer here, but what other health issues do you expect to start arising as this group continues to age?
Yeah, so we've been seeing really bad health problems for decades now, actually. The most common issues are really respiratory, which makes sense. These folks were inhaling all these toxic substances, so much higher rates of COPD, emphysema, and lung disease, even in this patient population that oftentimes has much lower smoking rates than the general population. And, it's important to note that far more people now have actually died from health-related issues from inhaling all those chemicals than from the towers coming down themselves. And we're going to see continual increases in the incidences of all types of cancer because cancer really develops over the course of decades. So even in the last 5 years, we've really seen skyrocketing numbers compared to what we saw, 5-10 years ago.
Well, just terribly tragic. And we just couldn't believe the numbers. They caught our eye when my team saw them this week.
Pull it. To quote the great Larry Silverstein, pull it. You know what I'm saying? So there you go, folks. It's much better because, leading up to 9/11, there was some assessments as to how much it would cost to clear out all the asbestos and figure out, what it would cost to bring those World Trade Center buildings up to code, get rid of all of those dangerous things that ended up floating through the air in downtown Manhattan that day, how much it would cost to gut those buildings and make them safe. It was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. And so the calculation was, instead of spending billions of dollars to repair those buildings the proper way, why don't we just blow the buildings up and spray that shit all over downtown Manhattan? And fuck all to the people that showed up and had to deal with it, right? And not only that, but make billions of dollars on it. What was it, like $6 billion, something like that? Something like that.
It sounds a little high, but probably
somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. So the great Lucky Larry Silverstein made off like a bandit in that deal, in that transaction, I would say. And it's really interesting. I mean, this is an ongoing issue. And I was just looking it up here. It's the Zadroga Act. So the Zadroga Act was basically some legislation that was, to his credit, Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. We poke fun at we have this back and forth with Jon Stewart. He makes fun of us. We make fun of him. You know what I mean? It's just like kind of like, but he's been a big advocate for the legislation around providing ongoing support for this victim compensation fund, and not only for the victims, but also the first responders who have ongoing health issues as a result of the events that happened on September 11th. And so, I'll give Stewart some credit for that. I remember there was a whole controversy not too long ago. 2019, where they were looking to pull back on the ongoing relief for people that were suffering from the health effects from, being responders to that incident. And he was like, no, you guys still need to pay them. If we're going to have a government, maybe you should help pay for the ongoing health complications of the people who, showed up to help that day. So, crazy stuff. Let's see what else we had on there. So yeah, good on Alex Jones, man. Like it's so crazy. This whole story of the Alex Jones situation is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard and seen in my life. There was a brief period of time where they took down InfoWars Band.video, and I was like, holy crap, that sucks, because that affected me personally, because I have a channel on Band.video. It impacted this show, Grand Theft World, because Grand Theft World has a channel on Band.video. So when Alex Jones gets censored and silenced, that affects many other people, right? So I don't care what you think about Alex Jones or InfoWars, or if you think this is all theater or whatever. Regardless, it affects my speech, and it affects this show's speech and this show's ability to reach a large audience. And so I'm rooting for Alex. I don't care. I financially support Alex. I'm rooting for Alex. I'm friends with a lot of the producers there. I'm rooting for them because their jobs get affected by it. So regardless of, what anybody feels, and you can call me a shill or call me whatever you want, but I'm rooting for Alex and I'm rooting for InfoWars. So there you go. And then Pfizer, dude, Pfizer is on the ropes, dude. It's so funny to see this shift in public consciousness around it. Ever since a couple weeks ago when we did that whole serving Pfizer, just seeing the upswell of like people, like just the rallying of the troops that occurred after that. Like, it's just been so inspiring and so cool to see. And I will say, I was talking to Shelby from Unjected earlier today, and we were talking to the legal people, and I think we're going to kick things up a notch with the Team Humanity lawsuit. And I may be going back to New York here very soon. But yeah, it looks like we are going to be going after the news companies as well. So we got ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, New York Times. Like, we're going to try in the works, but there may be a follow-up where I'm going to New York and serving all these bastards too. So we'll see. The great Team Humanity lawsuit is growing, and we're having a lot of expert witnesses and experts stepping up to the plate, offering assistance to whatever we need. People that are also have lawsuits in the works right now, who have a lot of experience navigating the legal system, have offered to help. And then also we are gathering testimony from a lot of the plaintiffs. So we have a lot of people that are joining. We're working on making it a class action status. And right now we're gathering testimony from people to be used in court against these people. And it's harrowing, absolutely harrowing. We had one lady who said she's dealing with these ongoing health complications, very severe health complications, and that she was ready to end her own life. And she saw what this Team Humanity lawsuit was doing and decided to not only live to fight another day, but join the lawsuit. And so her testimony, so we're like inspiring people to like not kill themselves, dude. I thought that was nuts and amazing. And so we're going to keep going, and we're escalating. We're kicking it up a notch. So anyway, you can go check out the Unjected, all their socials, and you can see all the fun stuff of us serving Pfizer and all those guys. But Pfizer is on the ropes, baby, and they're running scared. And I looked in their beady little eyes, those people at the counter, and they were scared. When we served that lawsuit, they didn't know what to do. They panicked. They were chasing us down the street. They didn't know what to do with us, and it felt good because,
Yeah, if we're gonna have a government, let's have a government that holds these corporations accountable. I was dropping in the chat, like, how many felonies has Pfizer committed? Well, as a corporate entity, it's out there, looting and shooting, so to speak. The whole Citizens United thing. Here we are, like, I don't know. I don't want to say it, that dude in New York City that died a couple weeks ago, he did some pretty awful stuff, and looting fireman's pension, among other things. And he's not the only one, but how many felonies is United Healthcare responsible for?
100%, man. That's what they do. And whether or not it's even a felony, it's like it's immoral, it's unjust. And that's the funny thing about like the compartmentalization, the whole nature of that, and that like they rely on compartmentalization and just brainwashing. So the people that work at Pfizer, like the low level people, they think that they're really doing a good job. But when you pull back and you realize that the amount of death and destruction that they've caused over the years, not just with the COVID injections, but you name it, man, it's astonishing. So, all we're looking for is a little accountability, and there's a lot of naysayers out there, especially with the lawsuit stuff. They're like, oh, what's the lawsuit going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not going to do anything. But for me, what I've witnessed firsthand is this giant, like, raising of just, like, morale among the troops. You know what I mean? People are fired up and excited to see something happening. And whether or not it gets thrown out on day one, who knows? Who cares? We're still inspiring people. And I think that's really important. So that's all good. It's all good. So, yeah, Pfizer, we're coming at you. We're coming for you peacefully, politically, as they say, right?
Everyone's doing some kind of self-help these days, and you can find a million self-help courses out there. Most other courses out there are hosting lectures. They're hosting videos. They're maybe even doing Q&As. And these are great starting points to encourage learning. But at Autonomy, we believe that hands-on practice is the best way to really lock in what we're learning. There's no better way to gain confidence and mastery than through action. After each lecture, we practice the concepts we've learned with other students, giving and receiving feedback in a non-judgmental environment. The result is mastery of concepts like entrepreneurship, ethical sales, and self-reliance in an environment that directly translates to the real world. Plus, you make connections with other like-minded individuals who are learning right alongside you, and you have a lifetime membership in the community. The Autonomy course with Richard Grove equips you with confidence, competence, and courage in a world filled with confusion and noise. You can learn more at getautonomy.info. We'll see you there.
What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come on.